Except for the humans, when our coalition's exploration drones first detected the Sol system, we immediately knew it was of little consequence. Initial scans showed a handful of barren rocks and gas giants, lifeless, unremarkable worlds. Only the third planet stood out, teeming with life. Over the following days, our probe scouted the planet called Earth. Despite the immense clutter of orbital debris, remnants of failed launches and abandoned satellites, the probe gathered fragments of data. The surface was alive with diverse flora and fauna, vast oceans, and most notably a sapient species, humans. They appeared to be the architects of the scattered structures and the debris cloud encircling their world. Scans estimated roughly 8 billion individuals. Yet for all their apparent intelligence, they seemed woefully primitive. After several weeks of observation, the probe moved on to its true objective, a newly discovered system rich in resources. Earth, isolated and chaotic, wasn't worth further attention. The humans had barely breached their planet's atmosphere, and their orbital wreckage suggested that even those meager attempts had mostly failed. Most scientists agreed that it would take humanity at least 4 centuries to develop ships capable of interstellar travel and far longer to master FTL. Never had we seen such a sluggish species. Most races, once they glimpsed the stars, made it their singular purpose to escape their home world, except apparently, the humans. Not long after, war erupted between 2 coalition members, the warlike Xansi and the docile Danik. Everyone knew the Danik were the victims, but no one dared challenge the Xansi military machine. Within weeks, the Xansi had glassed one Danik world, conquered another, and used their Senate influence to expel the survivors from the coalition entirely. The Danik were a small, fragile race, barely 10 billion in number, with a pitiful military and only a handful of FTL-capable ships. They were dismissed as nearly as helpless as the humans. One senator even suggested sending them to the Sol system as a test. Why waste valuable resources greeting an insignificant species? Let the displaced Danik do it. So the remnants of the Danik civilization, 52 massive colony ships and countless smaller freighters and transports, fled into exile. 7 billion refugees jumped toward Sol, alone and desperate, with no support and no way back. Nobody expected the humans to welcome them. But that's exactly what they did. Weeks later, a second probe, this one specifically designed to study the Danik-human encounter, reached the Sol system. The data it sent back astonished us. Earth's many governments, for there were many, had accepted the Danik refugees. The planet buzzed with construction. Half the Danik fleet still orbited the planet, while the rest integrated into human society. Even more incredible, much of the space debris that once choked Earth's orbit had been cleared. The adaptation was breathtaking. Within weeks, humans and Danik together were building entire cities with vast machines that could print structures faster than we thought possible. Danik freighters were repurposed for asteroid mining, feeding materials into new projects. And somehow, impossibly, humans had reverse-engineered nearly every piece of Danik technology, from particle shields to FTL drives. Their vehicles now hovered on anti-gravity nodes. Their ships, redesigned with human efficiency, were faster than their Danik predecessors. Never had the coalition witnessed such ferocious industriousness. On most worlds, a single ship took months to construct, and fitting it with FTL required even more time and expense. Only the wealthiest systems could afford such drives. Yet on Earth, new vessels rolled off the lines weekly, many immediately vanishing into hyperspace, destinations unknown. Curiosity quickly turned to fear. The Xansi generals demanded to seize whatever miracle made humans so efficient. The Senate, ever pliant, authorized them to assemble a strike force, 100 warships, including carriers, destroyers, frigates, and even a dreadnought capable of annihilating a planet. Thousands of fighters, hundreds of troop transports, all of it aimed at one small blue world. After all, what chance could a single planet have against the full might of the Xanthi fleet? There was no reason to believe Earth could stand against the Xanthi. Barely a year had passed since the Danik refugees arrived, and no world in known history had ever resisted a full Xanthi fleet. Most civilizations surrendered within days, hoping at best to survive. Except, of course, the humans. When the Xanthi Armada regrouped near the Sol system's largest gas giant, their plan was simple: advance, overwhelm, subjugate. But as they approached, something unexpected appeared near Earth. A small human defense fleet of barely a dozen cruisers. Then more arrived. As the Xanthi pushed past the asteroid belt, new human ships emerged one after another, blinking into existence from FTL jumps. By the time they reached Mars, the human formation had grown to match the Xanthi in strength. And when the two fleets finally clashed above the red planet, the outcome defied every prediction. The battle was brutal, chaotic, and far more even than anyone believed possible. A year earlier, Danik ships had weak shields and outdated weaponry. Now human cruisers and battleships fought the Xanthi head-on, exchanging devastating volleys that shattered hulls and ripped apart entire formations. When the dust settled, the Xanthi fleet had been halved. Only 50 ships remained, including their dreadnought flagship and a handful of carriers. Facing 60 human cruisers and destroyers, the once invincible Xanthi began to falter. For the first time in history, they chose to retreat. The dreadnought turned away, preparing to jump to safety before it was destroyed. But before the command could be given, 3 massive human carriers launched a wave of nearly 500 small troop transports. Each one locked onto a Xanthi vessel, breached its hull, and vanished with it into hyperspace, their human marines aboard. The probe monitoring the battle recorded it all. The remaining Xanthi ships fled the system, humiliated. Humanity did not pursue. Instead, their fleet regrouped near Mars, waiting, ready, in case the Xanthi returned. They never did. Never in all of galactic history had a full Xanthi fleet been driven to retreat. No species had ever matched their power in open combat, but humanity, a race of fumbling apes barely 400 days removed from near primitivism, had done the impossible. The Xanthi hierarchy erupted in fury. Their admirals demanded punishment, even execution, for the fleet commander who'd led the debacle. Yet when they tried to reach his dreadnought, there was only silence. The flagship was presumed destroyed, a catastrophic loss. Those ships were the pride of the coalition, and only 9 existed in the entire galaxy. Still, the Xanthi vowed vengeance. They gathered their 4 remaining grand fleets, every ship they could muster, and prepared for retribution. When the Armada finally arrived at the rendezvous point, the admirals were met with an astonishing sight. The destroyed dreadnought was there, hovering silently amid its escorts, its 4 planet-killing cannons charged and glowing. Protocol forbade charging those weapons without intent to fire. The energy drain alone could cripple a ship's systems. The admirals barely had time to realize what was happening. Orders to raise shields, charge weapons, or evacuate came too late. The dreadnought opened fire. 4 colossal beams of energy, each with the force of 1,000 nuclear warheads, struck true. The explosions gutted the Xanthi flagships, tearing through shields, reactors, and entire support squadrons. Within seconds, the once mighty Xanthi Armada fell dark. Engines silent, systems dead, their leaders watching helplessly through shattered bridge windows. Then came the humans. 60 human ships, the same fleet that had fought over Mars, emerged from hyperspace and closed in, launching waves of strike craft toward the crippled Xanthi dreadnoughts. 4 days later, the war was over. The Xanthi Empire signed an unconditional surrender to the newly formed Terran Union. They relinquished all slaves, surrendered their technologies, and ceded control of their remaining dreadnoughts, now operated jointly by human and Danik crews, which hovered ominously above the Xanthi homeworld AS capital. Never before had anyone stood against the most powerful military force in the galaxy and won. Never before had the galaxy seen such a decisive, humbling defeat. The Xansi would never rise to dominance again. Nothing would ever be as powerful as they once were. Except, well, the humans.